obviously excited that we get to practice and prepare. I thought we had a good day yesterday, and um, hopefully we can have another good day today, and then go play at home. It's we haven't had that opportunity too many times, and and this we continue to try and figure out just the dynamic of this season for this team based on the hand that we've been dealt, and it's different than any other season. It's been different for me. I'm very practice driven, get better oriented, and and those two things have been absent from the chapter that we're writing this year. So it's I know at the end of the day, this will help me be a better basketball coach as we go through this. But while you're going through it, it's really confusing because there's nothing in my database that I can reflect on to help me do my job right now. But that's okay. We'll figure it out.
All right, Dave.
Hey, Frank, thanks for doing this. Kind of the standard. How are you feeling, and how's the team feeling? Everybody back to full health?
Yeah, I'm doing better, man. I'm still not all there. It's if I didn't have a responsibility to my players and coaches, I would not be doing this right now. I'm still not. My energy level is not what it needs to be, and it's just you just feel different. I mean, there's no other way to word it. I mean, I'm still all congested. I'm short of breath at times, but I'm not trying to make anyone feel sorry for me. I'm healthy, and it's my job to do my job. It's and then the players are great, man. They it's we're still not at full tilt, but we've had the same group of guys together for well, not including me and Chuck. We've had the same group together now for 3 practices and 2 games. So maybe we can do that for another practice today and another game on Saturday.
Mike Uva.
Frank, I know you discuss, not being able to fall back on anything to kind of compare this to, but from a patient standpoint, because obviously your background as an educator, as a teacher, how challenging is it at times trying to be patient? Because obviously you're trying to get things heading in the right direction, but at the same time, it's been tough for these players to just try to find a rhythm.
Yeah, Mike, we all get judged. Our group, we get judged on wins and losses, and we've all signed up for that. And we can't sign up for a job and then hate what the job encompasses. And so we all understand that when we lose games, it creates negative vibes. And when we don't win, and when we win games, at least it gives us relief for a couple of days. We get that. But to go in that journey the way we've always done it, there's a certain mindset, a certain preparation, a routine that we allow it internally allows us to keep our focus on getting better and practicing and just worried about building that camaraderie and that consistency. Well, when you don't get those practices, it doesn't allow you to focus on getting better because all you get is a game now. And then what happens? Then your only reward is the win or the negativity of the loss. And, and that's, I've always tried to shield our team from that by focusing in on what we do in practice and the camaraderie that we're building and the improvement and things of that nature. Well, right now, it's really hard to show improvement because we haven't had a chance to be around each other to do the things that we usually do. That's where the frustration internally for me comes from. We just got to be at peace, man. It's I and I'm not saying this to stir the pot in one direction or the other, but the year we've had, man, I've lost some dear friends to COVID, and we've all lost people that we idolized in our lifetime to COVID, people that we celebrated and tried to emulate our lives after because of the situation that we've been dealing with for a whole year. I'm not going to allow the negativity of people that are sitting at home wanting to be critical of the environment that our players and our team has been dealing with right now. I'm just not going to allow that to influence our team in any way. I'm going to do everything in my power to diffuse that as much as I can, not be confrontational about it. There's enough negativity in our society right now. We don't need more confrontation, but privately amongst my staff and my players, and that's where you hear me say that I struggle being me as a coach because I can't be me as a person this year. That's what I'm talking about. It's but with all that said, man, we've signed up to do this, so we can't complain about all the stuff that we don't get to do. We got to figure out a different way of doing it so we can figure out a way to get better so we can win games. And it's real simple.
And Frank, I know you're going to probably have more time to think about it towards the end of the season when you do reflect on this year. But I mean, you just mentioned it. I know you've mentioned it before, and a lot of people are kind of curious. Have you felt like you've changed, not just as a person, but as a coach this season, and in terms of just thinking about your future sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know if I've changed as a person. I mean, let's hit rewind on that. If we're not continuing to grow as a person, regardless of what environment we're in, forget basketball, then we're failing in our journey. I think I continue to grow as a human being, and my mind gets better, and my decision making gets better. And it's we all have faults, and there's certain faults that I've got that I'm going to have to the day the good Lord comes to get me. I mean, it's my fabric, and we live in a place now where we think everything should be perfect, and anyone that has a fault, we all want to sit around and judge people because of faults. And I've always said I feel real bad for people that sit around and judge others based on faults. I had got a lot more respect for people that fight their faults every day than I do for the ones that want to sit around and judge everybody else. But as a coach, I definitely have to. I told our team yesterday, the only thing that I've done in my career that can maybe try and help me manage this moment is coaching AAU basketball, where you take kids from different neighborhoods that don't play for you and different parts of the state, and you practice for 2 days, and then you go play 5 games in 48 hours and try and make the championship round. And it's the only thing I can reflect on to try and help me do my job. And because it's it's not a traditional season from that standpoint. At least it hasn't been for our team. I know there's a lot of other teams that have been impacted too, but I can only speak for our team. And this season goes completely against the way I like to do my job. And so I know I'll be a better coach after the fact once I sit back and I reflect on this season. Because we've had to be creative, and we've had to, we all get comfortable in our routine, and our routine sometimes, in the boredom of it, it doesn't allow us to grow. And I have tremendous faith that as I get to the end of this year, me personally, that I will be better as a basketball coach, because I've had to get out of my routine. So I've had to think differently and act differently. And so there's no doubt that I'll be hopefully a better version of me eventually.
Colin?
Hey, Frank, first of all, hope you and the wife and kids are feeling okay after COVID and all that. But I kind of wanted to touch, are you anticipating getting Chuck, Jalen, and Alonzo back? And with guys like Alonzo and Jalen who have been either out or in for a weird month where they're in and out of practice, I guess, how do you handle their mental health and keeping them at least somewhat positive through this?
Yeah, that's been the complicated part, man. It's been the complicated. Yeah, it's trying to figure out a way to keep all those guys. We've had multiple guys that just been in. Remember, there's two different things. There's isolation and quarantine, and we've got multiple guys that have been in quarantine 3 times, and that they're not sick. They never contracted the virus, but yet they've got to be locked up in a room, for X number of days and not able to do any basketball. And, if you do that for one window of, whatever it is, it used to be 10 days. Now it's down to 7 days. You do that one time. Okay. When you do that 3 separate times, within a 7-week period, that creates difficulty in managing that, amongst all the players. And then obviously I'm not going to sit here and share that information. It's up to the players. It's their personal stuff and their families as to who's been positive. I told you, I'm positive, and Chuck was willing for me to say he was positive. So you're aware of of us being positive. But it's Colin, it's difficult, man. It's difficult. And and like, give you an example, there's so much protocol that takes place on a daily basis. And then once they test positive, man, you got to go through all these checks and balances with doctors to make sure that your heart is right, that that your body's functioning the right way, that you can be reintroduced to competing. And there's that, I'm going through it as we speak right now. You're getting all these blood work and all these kind of tests done for your heart and your mind and your, what do you call them? Aneurysms and blood clotting and all these things. And you're going through it, man. And you're just hoping that you don't get bad news. It's a complicated 72 hours to a week that you go through. And, and it's, as an athlete, that's a difficult place to be in, man, because it's, I don't know if you guys remember. I mean, Colin, you and Mike, I was joking with you guys last night. You guys are still young, even though Colin, we all know you've thrown in the towel, you're done. Mike's still running around being bulletproof. When you're that age, man, you're invincible. You don't think that any of this stuff can prevent you from being who you want to be. It's just who I was like that. I didn't care what was going on in society or with my body. I was going to go do it as hard as I could the next day. And all of a sudden you're told, like, yo, this isn't one to play with. Slow down. And now it's not just a guy that's sick that's going through it. God forbid if one of their peers gets diagnosed with something that's in their head, man, like, holy cow, man, that this can really happen. It's complicated. It's not simple. And I'm not trying to get anyone to feel sorry for anybody, because at the end of the day, if we live and we survive and we're healthy to live as human beings, we're pretty lucky compared to other 400,000 other Americans that don't get to say that right now. So, it's just psychologically, it's been a complicated thing. And I think if you poll coaches around the country, the majority of them would tell you that's been the most complicated component of what we're trying to do.
Is there a timeline to get Chuck and Jalen and Alonzo back, or do you just kind of not know that right now? Is it day by day?
Chuck, I'm surprised he's not in here right now. Today, he's out of isolation today. I'm pretty sure he'll be in the office here sometime today. But Chuck I don't want to speak for him. Chuck got beat up pretty good too. So it's not like he's been sitting around the house chomping at the bit because he feels good. He got his tail kicked, and but knowing him and the way he goes about who he is, he's dying to get around and try. And here's the other thing: he and I were both two miserable human beings. So what miserable people do, we commiserate. And like, we weren't at practice in the games, we were like on the phone, both sounded like crap, but we just wanted to be miserable with each other because we couldn't live life the way we know it. So I'm sure he's ready to get out um, and get around people again. And most important, he's helped recruit majority of these kids, man. Is I know we were miserable sitting at home watching the LSU game, knowing we weren't there to help. And sometimes maybe we don't help, but just being a part of it, living that moment with the guys that you go at it with every day. Because it's not just about celebrating, but it's also, I told the team, and I'm sorry for the long-winded answer. I told the team yesterday, being miserable after the Missouri game, not sleeping that night, sitting around all day Wednesday, thinking that we'll never win another game is the journey of a coach. But you know what? Wednesday night when I was sitting at home and I was breaking down Auburn, I said, this is so much better than what I went through for 2 weeks before. So it's perspective, I think, gives us all peace to do our jobs. And I know Chuck's ready to get at it again.
Mitch?
Obviously, your rotations are fluid right now with Trey Anderson. Trey Anderson was able to get out there and do some things last couple of games. What have you seen from him and his growth, and also his patience to just wait for an opportunity to arise?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because usually, I like playing a lot of people, and it's kind of the in vogue thing with coaches right now is that you only play 7 or 8. That's it. Don't play anymore. You got to create a rotation so everyone just is at peace. And I'm like, I tell people all the time, I coach like I'm coaching myself, which was a bad player that's dying for an opportunity. But in the back of my mind, I know that I'm probably not good enough, but I still want to help. And so I can't go into the homes of all these kids and tell them and their parents that I think they're going to be a great addition to our program, and they get here and tell them they ain't good enough to play. I got to figure out a way to play them. And if they do what they're supposed to, it's my responsibility to figure out a way to make them feel part of it. So with all that said, I'm used to Dave asking me, not Dave wouldn't ask me that, but Phil asking me, when am I going to settle down into my rotation? Am I going to continue to play 9, 10 guys? Well, this year, I got no idea what we're doing. I mean, we had a certain plan in place as we practiced in October and November to play. And all of a sudden, the plan we had in place fell apart. And then when we reconvened, we had 8 guys in practice. And we said, okay, so we can't play like the way we tried to act we wanted to play for the 2 months leading into the season. So let's reinvent how we're going to play. And then we did that for Florida A&M. And then as a preparation for Texas A&M, we had another 2 guys at practice. So now we were up to 11, we had 9 leading to Florida A&M. Now we got 11 guys in practice, even though only I think 10 could play. And we said, okay, let's try and implement these, because now we get these other 2 guys in here. And then after that, boom, we shut down again. And so it's an evolving deal that I don't have the answer. I mean, I wish I can be one of these phony coaches that knows how to speak like in mysterious ways to make you think something. I'm not good at that. I don't have that answer right now. I'm trying to figure it out every day in practice, like how to play, who to play, and where to put guys in. And then to your point on Trey Anderson, he's a stud, man. He's a stud. Never complained. When last season ended, the one thing that I said to myself was I probably should have given him a chance, because he was really practicing well at the end of the year. But I had gotten to a routine of this is my rotation and kind of sticking with that the last month of the season, and I never threw him out there. But moving him to the 4, I think has helped him tremendously. But a lot of credit to him, man, that he's a real good teammate, works his tail off, and he got his number called. And I just talked to the players about this the other day. Opportunity. Sometimes you work every day and no one ever picks up the phone and gives you a chance. And other times you don't expect the opportunity and you get the call. What do you do when you get that opportunity determines whether you keep your job and whether you get a better job. And he's definitely been prepared and answered the bell when his name was called.
Frank, has all of these goals that you came into the season with, has it just turned into, let's just make it to the end of the season? Is that the goal at this point?
That's pretty much correct. It's nothing that we planned and thought about trying to work towards. Back in September when we started, none of that is in play right now. The only thing that we continue to strive for is an SEC championship. We get a chance to play games. There's going to be a trophy handed out for the SEC champion. That has to be the one thing that we can focus in on pursuing, because that's in front of us and that's tangible. Everything else, the way we go about it, kind of went out the window, and we're just refiguring things out as we go through it right now.
Joe?
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Hope you're getting better. I wanted to ask you. You talked about like the mental anguish and the psychological warfare of the season.
Yeah.
I'm curious then, how do you create joy then? Because you get into basketball, I feel like all of us got into covering sports because of the joy surrounding it. So even though there's tremendous pain associated with COVID and everything that's gone on, how do you create joy and that fun-loving atmosphere for guys to come in and compete?
Yeah, Joe, that gets harder and harder. Forget COVID. That's been getting harder and harder every year because social media is like a conglomeration of miserable human beings. It's all they want to do is be negative for everybody. Negative at anyone that has an opinion, attack them. Anyone that loses a game, attack them. Anyone that has a bad day, attack them. And it's created this just negative connotation to how we all get judged and in the world of public opinion. It's that's the truth. No one can argue with me it's any different than that. And then you add the whole COVID experience to it. And then the fact that I'm not one of these coaches that's sitting around saying we should not be playing. This is a joke. No, man, I signed up for a job. I've got to figure out a way to do my job. What I do think is, and I regret that I was not more vocal about this before the season, but it was such an unknown that I really I didn't want to like be loud to be loud. When I'm loud is because I'm pretty passionate that there's a point I need to make. And this is an abnormal year. You go into arenas that are empty. You like when we do team meals in hotels, there is no team meals. It's like you go in the lobby and they give you a box and you go back to your room and you eat in your room. You're never around the players if it's not at a practice or the game. It's different, man. And so now what happens? We're playing games, or at least we're getting the chance to play games now after not being able to do so. And it's that negative world that I've been speaking about, that I just mentioned to you, that this fishbowl that all of us has signed up for this. Joe, I got into sports, man, because I grew up idolizing the Miami Dolphins. And it wasn't just that they won games. It's that the media wrote the stories about Jim Kick having a side job as an insurance salesman and what he did. Mercury Morris lived in the same apartment building that I lived in. That should give you an idea about what football players made back then. You learned about these people as human beings and what they were every day. So you didn't get out of bed and judge them based on wins and losses. But that's all changed. And it's just, we celebrate bad people that win games, but we go out of our way to just persecute good human beings that unfortunately can't win on a day. And that's a sad place that we're in right now. Well, part of my job is manage that with a group of 18 and 22-year-olds that live for social media acceptance, which is really, really hard to gain because it's so tied in to the phoniness of winning a game. Well, I got to manage that. That's part of the job that I've signed up for right now. And I'm okay with it. I'm not complaining. It's what I'm trying to do. What I try to do to keep our guys sane is take the focus off of that and put it on, let's get better. Let's show us every day how to get better and stay in the journey with what matters, which is what I call the inside voice. You know, it's my kids, when they were real young, their kindergarten teachers say, use your inside voice, you know, meaning be quiet, you know. Well, inside voice to me is the voices that are in that room with you every day. You know, let's listen to those voices. And right now we haven't been able to do that. So it's, I don't know if I answered your question, Joe, but that's why I think I'll be better after this whole thing's over, because I'm having to learn. I'm having to live outside the box that I kind of created to have peace in my life. I'm not living in that box right now, and I've got to do it differently. So I think I'll be better when the whole thing's over.
Michael Onana.
Yeah, it was just about the mood of the team this week, you know, being able to kind of take a breath a little bit.
Yeah, Michael, what I said was basically, if you guys want to write the story that there's Frank making excuses again, you can. That's on you guys. I don't get mad at you guys for sharing your opinions of what I say. But the truth be told, after not practicing, but I think it was 6 times in 7 weeks, and coming off a shutdown, practicing 2 times, and your head coach and your top assistant not being with the team. You go play at LSU, and from what Bruce and the staff told me, it was unbelievably, there was some genuine kind of competitive juices between the teams in that LSU game. It was an up and down, very physical game. We lose. Our guys have academic responsibilities that I put in place on Sunday evenings. So I'm not taking that out to practice basketball in lieu of our academics. I'm just not doing it. So we have to figure out a way to utilize the day of Sunday to be productive, because it's got to be during the day. Well, you know, when you get back at 2:00 in the morning and you've only practiced for 2 days and you just suffered a hard loss, your team is beat up. It's not mentally and physically conditioned for that moment. You know, that's what you use the season for. Well, season hasn't helped us with that. Well, we turn around and now I show up again on Monday, and here I show up after not being around for 12 days, and now we got to get on a plane and go play the 15th, 16th ranked team in the country. You know, after a 2-hour and change flight, and actually one practice, and we couldn't win that game either. And we tried. We weren't very good. We were really sluggish, especially to start the game, and just a step slow, and couldn't get to the right places. And as the game unfolded, we played better, but not well enough to win. And then we were off on Wednesday, and you know, and then yesterday we were good. So we got to be at peace with the fact that we're given a chance to practice again. You know, we got to practice yesterday. We get to practice today. You know, let's be at peace. I mean, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but because I think if he wasn't going to play, I wouldn't say this, but the plan is for him to play Saturday. But there's a guy that plays a lot for us, couldn't practice yesterday. It just, you know, he had a form of the cold and couldn't practice. He's negative for COVID, so everything should be okay for Saturday. I think he's going to try and do some things today, but it's just complicated, man. It's complicated, and I'm not asking for anyone to feel sorry for me, you know, but have a little empathy for our players, you know, because I get the fact that we haven't won our last 2 games, but those kids are laying it on the line, man, and they're trying to manage this in a way where we're going to get judged for wins and losses. And it's all right. We sign up for it. We got to deal with it. But you know, as Gamecocks, you know, let's everyone have a little empathy for those kids. You know, that they're trying to figure it out under different and difficult circumstances.
All right, we got 2 more hands raised. We'll go with those 2, Colin and then John Dell. Go ahead, Colin.
I don't mean to be Debbie Downer and give kind of focusing on Auburn now. I guess I don't know how much you've gotten to watch of Sharif Cooper, their point guard, and is 4 games from him enough of a sample size to develop a complete scouting report on a guy like that? And with kind of the struggles you've had at point guard, how do you plan on just defending him and trying to limit him and what he does on the court?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Sharif play a lot of basketball for the last 3-4 years, and um, it's pretty simple when you watch him play that he's a special player. He's a special player because he makes the 4 guys on the court better. It's not his stats. People want to say, well, he scored 23 points a game and he made this layup and now he made some threes the last game. That's good. Basketball players can do that. The guys that are impactful basketball players, they elevate the other 4 guys on the court. And he's definitely done that. It's pretty simple to see that he's a gifted basketball player, but he's also the kind of person that elevates others, and that's where his impact comes in. And came in high school, it came in an AAU ball, and it's obviously showing, after 4 games. And excuse me. So he's real good. It's our point guard play is not. It's not that it's bad. It's just not playing well. And we've had back in October, I thought our point guard play was pretty good and aggressive. And right now we're unsure of what we're doing. And part of that is the journey that we've been on. It's not complicated. Here's the other thing. And I struggle saying this, man, because anytime a coach says this, it bothers me because we're insinuating that there's teams that are no good out there. And I respect winning too much. And I respect the job that players and coaches do at every school too much. We haven't had a couple games against kind of lower tier teams where things can go good for us just based on execution and talent. Every team we've played is a team that's like, can kick your teeth in. And everything's been hard. And I'm okay with hard. I don't run away from hard. But when you're trying to get a team to gain confidence, you got to have a couple games where you don't play perfect, but things still go your way. And we haven't had that. And so our team is not, our point guard play is not bad. It's just looking for confidence. And every time we line up, the guy in front of us is really good. And the team in front of us is just think about the teams we played. But it's all right, man. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I've got confidence who we got at the point. I need them to play better. But I got tremendous confidence in 7th. I got tremendous confidence in Jermaine. I got tremendous confidence in AJ. I got tremendous confidence in Trey Hannibal and TJ Moss, all the guys that basically handle the ball for us. I've got confidence in them. But the honest answer is we need to play better. And if we play better, then we can give ourselves a chance to beat these real good teams that we're playing.
How do you go about stopping a guy like Sharif? Is that easier said than done, or how do you game plan for a guy like that?
Well, if we've been in sync with what we do defensively, it's never easy, but it's easier to make adjustments because there's a foundation of how you're doing things already. So your adjustments are off your foundation. We got no foundation right now. We're trying to put Scotch tape on everything and trying to hold it together as we try to refigure out who we are defensively. So we're going to have our hands full, but that's the job in place. Sometimes you get a great job walking in the door. Other times you get a job that pays you $20,000 and you get fired 8 months after you get the job. And you can sit around and cry and complain because you had a hard job and some Johnny go easy got a great job and that guy don't do crap to work. And we can sit around and complain, or we can sit around and be excited of the fact that we get an opportunity and just go at it and figure it out. That's how I live my life. That's how I try to do my stuff. And that's the way I'm preaching to our players. Like, don't stop worrying about stuff. Don't You know, at the end of the day, we got to go play the games. We're either going to win or we're going to lose. There's no third. This isn't football where we have ties. No, this is you're either winning or you're losing, and we're going to finish the game until we figure out who's got more points. And at the end, you're going to have to deal with either emotion. And when it's over, it's over. And that's the world that we're in right now. We got to figure it out. And the only way to survive is by not having division amongst each other, about having unbelievable confidence and trust in one another and honesty with one another so we can deal with the next day.
John Dell, and then Dave, I don't know if you were on when I said the other two, so we'll give you the last question. So go ahead, John.
Frank, over the last 7 weeks, these protocols have clearly hit your front court worse than any other part of your team. And Wildens has really been the only constant. And how do you feel he's handling that responsibility of being the guy, the big man, playing all these minutes?
It's hard. He's doing it for the first time in his life. And here's the other part. When you're young and you're taking on responsibility, it gives you peace. When you know that the day you have a bad day, that there's another guy that can do the job. You know, that's where the beauty of team sports are, is that when you're trying to figure stuff out, you know that there's a guy you can trust, that if you're not having a great day, that guy can pick you up. You hear that in baseball a lot. Yo, pick him up. It's a great team thing that every hand on deck. Well, he's kind of been a lone survivor, for lack of better words, and I hate using those terms, but so he's got to be real good. And there's no, the other guys aren't ready to do it right now, and he's riding solo. He didn't handle that real well first half of Florida A&M. Played better the second half. I thought he had a pretty good game against Texas A&M, and then at LSU, I thought it's the best game he's played since he's been here. He didn't have a very good day of practice on Monday, and he didn't play very well Tuesday at Missouri. I'm not getting anywhere dealing with him like I would deal with him in a regular season, or handling him the way I normally would. We're not getting anything done that way. So we got to be patient. He's a great dude. He wants to be good, and he will be good. But so we got to go through the growth with him, and just keep encouraging and keep putting him out there, and as his coaches and his teammates let him know that we have faith in him, so he can go out there and be at peace with who he is.
Last question to Dave.
Sorry, Frank, I might have missed this. I had to cut out for a little bit, but are Zoe and Jalen going to be available tomorrow?
No.